1, 2, 3. Mike Pachelli here. Thanks for tuning into this lesson. I'll be talking about Paul McCartney's bass playing on their potboiler hit, I Saw Her Standing There. Now, Paul has openly admitted that he played the exact same notes that bassist Reggie Boyd played on Chuck Berry's Talkin' About You. Now, the Beatles used to play Talkin' About You, Chuck Berry's tune, back in the Hamburg days. It's in the key of C. But when they went to do I Saw Her Standing There, Paul decided that that exact bass riff would work perfectly on I Saw Her Standing There. So now we've all heard the line a million times. It goes like this. All right, now what it is it's basically over, when it starts, it's over an E7 chord. So I like to think of it in terms of how it relates to that chord. So it starts on an E, which is the 1 of the chord. Then you play a G sharp, which is the major third, which is say third of the chord, back to 1, to a B, which is the 5th of that chord, back to a 1, back to an E, and then to a A, which is the 4th of the chord, and to a G sharp, which is the 3rd of the chord. So very slowly it's. So thinking about E, it's root 1, 3, 1, 5, 1, 4, 3. Now, Paul, being the improvisational wizard that he is, he doesn't, for the most part, he plays it exactly like that, but he does change it up a few times. Like on verse 3, he plays, so it would be 1, and when he does variations, most of the time he doesn't play eighth notes on the first beat. He'll play a chord note on the first beat. So he plays 1, 3, 1, 5, 3, 4, 3, like this. And later on, he also plays, he plays it again a little differently. He goes, so we'll call this like version 3 of the same riff. He plays 1, 3, 1, 5, 2 5s, 4, 3. So like this. And there's a couple other slight variations where he doesn't continually bounce on the eighth notes. And I'll get to that in a minute. So, but for the most part, for the intro and for verse 1 and 2 and for the very first bridge, he plays exactly the same way, the same riff over and over. So slowly, it's like from the beginning, it's like this. Verse starts here. Just. When he goes to the A, he plays the exact same form over A. So again, it's of A, it's 1, 3, 1, 5, 1, 4, 3. And when he goes to the B, exactly the same thing. And that's the B. 1, 3, 1, 5, 1, 4, 3. Okay? On that build-up where it goes, I'll never dance, right? It's the chord is E, so he plays an E. He plays just quarter notes. And they stay on E, E7, and he plays what would be called like an E over G sharp, because Paul goes up to G sharp. He goes. And then the chord changes to A, or A7. And the next chord, which confuses a lot of people, is actually an A minor over C. And Paul gets a C on the 10th fret of the D string. And then back to the same riff. B. So I'm going to play a verse for you very slowly so you can play along with me. Ready? 2, 3, 4. ready for verse 2. Verse 2 is exactly the same as verse 1, but on the last measure of that verse, he does a little walk down because he's going to go into the bridge or the middle. Well, it's 10 or 11 measures, middle 11. We'll call it the bridge. And so on that last measure of the verse, of the second verse, he plays a walk down. He plays. Now it's in A, so he plays. Up to B. Back down to A. Now you're ready for verse 3. Now at the beginning of verse 3 is the first time he does a slight variation of that main riff. So instead of doing 2/8 notes on beat 1, he plays 1/8 note on an E, and he plays what I'm calling the second variation of that riff. He plays. Right? So just 1, 3, 1, 5, 3, 4, 3 of the E chord. Then back to the regular riff. To an A. Now on this last, or I should say, 8th measure of the of verse 3, he kind of misses or he purposely gets ready to play quarter notes for the build-up, because on that last measure he plays. I'm sorry, it's on B. He plays a strong quarter note on beat 3 because he's going to do the build-up. Now instead of just staying on 4 E's, he plays 1, 3, 5, 2 measures. So he plays like this. Right, and then A's to C. Back to what I'm calling the second. No, actually, this would be the third version of the main riff. He plays this. He plays. So now we're going 1, 3, 1, 5, 4, 3. Back to the B. Again. And then into the solo, just 8th notes been slurring in from A to B. Plays like getting ready for the solo. Okay, so now I'll play verse 3 for you, nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we're into the solo. The chord changes during the solo differ from the verse chord changes, and it's probably the most challenging part to get this solo section correctly, like Paul played. One thing of note is that there's a number of times where he again just plays on 1, a quarter note on 1 instead of 8th notes for the main riff. I think it'll be easier if I just play it very slowly for you and then I'll talk about it. So here's what Paul plays during the guitar solo. 2, 3, 4. So again, like on measure, what would be 6 of the solo, he plays a lead line into the B chord. He plays. right? So it's like, 1, 3, 1, 5, 1, dominant seventh into the B. And then when he gets onto the B, I mean, he hangs on that B quite a bit, like on measure, 8th of the solo, it's continuing to the E, same kind of just stronger pattern. Right, to the A. Just touches it. Back to an E chord. Another variation of the main riff. And then he plays kind of almost the Lucille riff on the B. He goes. Lucille is what? Something like that. But it reminds me of the Lucille riff. So, but Paul plays. And finishes with, I'm sorry. And then that same walk down into the second bridge. Now just a few variations on the bridge. On A, just a solid quarter note. Back to the regular way the riff goes, with 8th notes on the first beat. Quarter note on the 4th measure. Now when he gets up to the B, it's different. He plays, kind of like the third variation of that, or is it the second variation? A variation of that lick, back to then. Let me play a second bridge for you, nice and slow. It'll make more sense. It goes like this. Again, charts and tabs at MikePachelli.com, and that'll make it even clearer. For the last verse, it's pretty similar to what he played on the first and second verse, except for the very first measure. He uses what I've called, I think, version 3 of the lick, which is, right? But then pretty simple, straightforward until he gets to where they repeat the title of the song, and that gets a little wackadoodle. So. First, here's verse 4. First measure's like this. Now on this build-up thing, just like the very first and second verse, just quarter notes. Now on the repeat, he's going to use a number of different licks, and I think let me just do it very slowly for you so you can see what he played. Here's what he played on the last 12 measures. He plays this. Again, if you want to get it perfectly, charts and tabs at MikePachelli.com. You can see exactly what he played. Okay, so I think now I'll play the whole song up to tempo so you can play along with me and learn it just like Paul.
1, 2, 3.
Well, I certainly hope you enjoyed that. It's definitely a lot to take in. I suggest you just play along with my sound alike and you'll get it just like Paul McCartney. If you'd like to drop me a line, do so at MikePachelli.com. That's where the charts and tabs are for this lesson and all my video lessons. And by the way, if you want to learn the guitar parts for I Saw Her Standing There, just search I Saw Her Standing There with my name and you'll find it on YouTube. So until next time, have fun playing this great song. I'm Mike Pachelli. Thanks for hanging out with me.